The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Donald, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Witnesses, thanks everybody for coming in. Mr. Rabin, we're discussing illegal activities through digital assets, or really what the true scope is. Do you have a sense of the scale of digital asset related crimes as compared to illicit activities using traditional financial methods?
Yes, Congressman. As I said before, the UN's estimates are that 2 to 5% of global GDP is associated with money laundering, which is a tremendously large number. For cryptocurrency, the estimates vary, but most analytics firms say around 1%. Now, there is this discussion about, well, what about the activity happening on off-chain, which Mr. Mosier and I said is a misnomer, and I agree with him. There's no such thing as an off-chain transaction. That's just a traditional financial transaction. So to attribute those transactions to crypto crime is analytically wrong, and I don't think should be done. But on-chain transactions, meaning transactions actually associated with crypto, are around 1% of total activity.
Okay. Mr. Redbird, what statutes or law enforcement tools exist already to help combat digital asset related illicit finance? And how can we more efficiently utilize them?
Absolutely. From a law enforcement perspective, they're doing just that today. They're using the authorities that they have, money laundering statutes, conspiracy, and other types of laws, and using tools to build investigations. From a regulatory standpoint, we're seeing the U.S. Treasury Department very effectively go after bad actors in the space. First, by using sanctions. So we've seen sanctions against non-compliant exchanges in Russia, in Gaza, in elsewhere. We've seen Treasury target darknet markets like Hydra and mixers like Sinbad and Tornado Cash. So we've seen Treasury use authorities to go after bad actors in the space and those that are facilitating money laundering today. We've seen them use enforcement actions from FinCEN and OFAC to send a message to the broader ecosystem about the importance of compliance. Treasury has tools today and has very effectively leveraged them by targeting the actors as opposed to the activity or the technology. I think it's critical to continue to do that as opposed to look at the activity itself.
Okay. Ms. Hill, since on-chain data is already available to everyone, are additional government-mandated disclosures necessary, or would it be more effective to compile and analyze the already public information that exists?
I think we need to enforce the regulations that are on the books. The Bank Secrecy Act has a number of reporting requirements, including suspicious activity reports, and we also have on-chain data, which, as my fellow panelists and witnesses have talked about, is a critical tool for the private and public sector. But what I would like to emphasize on public traceable on-chain data is that it allows the government and the private sector to track at the same time together. So they can both look at that ledger. It's very distinct from the traditional financial sector, where there's an inherent information asymmetry between banks and government. Banks have information, they report it to government, and then government looks at it after the fact, usually many months after the fact, if not years. With on-chain data, as money is moving, governments and the private sector can look at it together at the same time and communicate about how to seize it, how to trace it, how to deter it.
Okay. Mr. Moiser, with private industry leading the way and already working with law enforcement to track and fight illicit digital asset crimes, what additional regulation do you think might be necessary?
Thank you for that question, sir. As Ms. Hill said, I think what we want to do is first start with what we have, which is very much the authorities. And actually, I was at the Senate banking hearing right after the October 7th attacks in Israel, sitting right behind my former colleague, who was the head of the Financial Intelligence Unit for Israel. She and every single witness there said, the president has right now every authority needed to go after what they need to get after. They're simply not resourced to take the actions. So we should really be doing what we already have and not throwing more shovels at people if they don't have more hands. And right now, sanctions gives us that reach. As Mr. Redbird noted, the Treasury Department has been exceptionally effective in this. So we need to resource the authorities we have first.
Well, and I thank you for that. I would say, for the witnesses, my concern in digital assets is not the bad actions that may occur using digital assets, the tool to execute them. That happens in any part of our financial system. Frankly, it's a part of just life. I think the other concern is, do we use this new technology and do, unfortunately, what Washington tends to do, over-regulate to effectuate an outcome and stifle the industry, frankly, in its infancy? So with that, I yield back.